Hello readers, it's Miss Regacious again here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about short pauses and full stops when we're reading. So, what are some reasons why people pause while they are speaking? Sometimes we pause when we are thinking or when we are having a conversation and waiting for the other person to speak. Pauses can also separate ideas so that a listener can better understand what we mean. I'm going to explore this a little further with my anchor chart. So remember, you can always pause and rewind this video if I'm going too fast for you to write this down in your notebooks. So short pauses and full stops is going to be the title of my anchor chart today. And let's get into point 1. Why should we pause and when? So I just told you why we should pause and when. So when we are thinking, when you have a thought that you need to give to another person, you don't want to just start talking in a way that you don't have any pauses. So when Miss Regacious makes these videos, I like to pause between each bullet point so that you know that my train of thought for this bullet point is stopping. When having a conversation. So when we have a conversation, it is polite to stop talking after we give a thought so that the other person can respond. So we might give a pause for someone to say yes, no, give a short answer back to us, and then we'll start talking again. And to separate ideas. So this kind of goes into when we are thinking about things. So we separate our ideas. When we go from one example to the next example, we don't just keep a running log going. Otherwise, people might not be able to keep up with your ideas that are happening. So when we speak, we naturally pause between our words or phrases to make our ideas clear. We want to do the same thing when we read, okay? So when we're reading, we use something called a full stop. And we find these in books when you get to punctuation. So when reading, we can use punctuation in context to know when to stop. Pausing helps us divide sentences into meaningful parts and helps us and listeners understand what we are reading. So I'm going to read a paragraph to you from our book, The Red-Tailed Angels. And I want you to listen after a punctuation mark, if you can tell where they are by my stopping or pausing. And then the start of a new paragraph or chapter. So I'm not going to be going into a new paragraph or chapter. But when you are transitioning from one paragraph to the next, you want to kind of stop your flow and then go into the next paragraph. You don't have to stop and make an awkward silence for like a minute. Just a quick stop for 1 or 2 seconds and then continue the reading. So listen to me read this paragraph. It's on page 5, paragraph 4, if you want to find it in the book and follow along. Big as the state of Texas, Antoine had said with a deep, bellowing laugh when he explained his nickname to Charlie. People often cowered in Texas' presence, and he used this to his advantage. But thankfully for Charlie, Tex had taken a liking to him. He also introduced him to 2 other men who had become his closest friends, McLeary and Smith, whom everyone called Mac and Smitty. After which word did you hear me pause? So in the first sentence, I said, big as the state of Texas, Antoine had said with a deep bellowing laugh when he explained his nickname to Charlie. People often cowered. So I paused after the word Charlie, which is where a period is in that paragraph. Which punctuation mark do you see there in the text? So I know some of y'all aren't following along, and that is okay because I know you have a lot of tabs open already. But there's a period. So when I see a period, a question mark, maybe an exclamation point, I always take a brief pause or a full stop so that I can process what I just read, and then I go on to the next sentence. So I'm going to read it again to you without pausing for punctuation, and I want you to listen to the difference. Big as the state of Texas, Antoine had said with a deep bellowing laugh when he explained his nickname to Charlie. People often cowered in Tex's presence. He used this to his advantage, but thankfully for Charlie, Tex had taken a liking to him. He also introduced him to two other men who had become his closest friends, McLeary and Smith, whom everyone called Mac and Smitty. So which one was more clear to you? It should have been the first time Miss Regatius read it, because there was pausing happening. So remember to take short pauses and full stops as you read on your own. It might help if you take a quick breath when you see a punctuation mark, and use that punctuation to help you appreciate the author's language and word choices. So today in your small group, when you're reading with your teacher, you're going to practice this skill. Remember to stop and pause when it is appropriate in your reading. We want the readers to understand what's happening and the flow to be smooth. So please keep in mind when you're reading to your friends out loud or even your teacher that we have to stop at our punctuation marks. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we are almost to our long weekend. And I will talk to y'all next week about more reading skills.